Hi, my name is Tom Torti, and I'm president of the Lake Champlain Regional Chamber of Commerce. You are watching Commerce Connection live at 525 on Channel 17, public access at its finest. On these shows, as you know, we try to focus on what it takes to create and support a thriving economy that benefits our citizens, visitors to our state, and the communities in which our businesses exist. The Chamber believes that when businesses and communities work together for the betterment of the community, we build the kind of region, we build the kind of towns and neighborhoods that folks want to live in. We hear a lot about the number of people who are leaving Vermont. We hear a lot about the number of workers that we need in Vermont to sustain the jobs that we have, and much of what we talk about is the exodus of young people and even of older folks. Today and tonight, we want to focus on what it takes to keep people here and what it takes really to create the kind of sense of community, the sense of place, the ecosystem that will drive businesses to want to locate here so that they can bring employees with them, that they can bring families with them, and so that the people who are here now actually have a reason to stay. For those of you who don't watch the show every month, just a little bit about the Chamber of Commerce. We're in our 111th year of existence as a business organization. So we go back a long time. We are the largest business association in the state, and we have over 1,500 members. Most of our members, and this is very different than other chambers of commerce that you might hear about in other parts of the country, vast majority of our businesses have fewer than 25 employees. We really are a small business chamber of commerce. We don't represent tons of multinational corporations, although some of the larger businesses in Vermont are our members. But our principles and values really are guided by small business. Many of the programs we run, like our accelerator program, Launch VT, focuses on helping small business start, small businesses growing, and the training and needs of employees in those businesses. Tonight, we're going to focus, as you know, on what it takes to build the current workforce, what it will take to strengthen the workforce we have, and to attract new workers. With us tonight to discuss the number of programs that the Chamber has is Erin Bombard. Erin is the marketing, events, and tourism manager for the Chamber of Commerce, and she's also, very importantly, the director of the Burlington Young Professionals Program. And we're going to talk a little bit, much more depth about that program in a little bit, because they've done a number of surveys reaching out to young professionals in our region, over 500 of them, to try to understand what keeps folks here and what is perhaps going to drive them away if things don't change. So we have a couple of topics we want to talk about, but good evening, Erin.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
When you talk about your two jobs, events and tourism, marketing, and young professionals, it almost sounds like you have two completely different roles at the Chamber. But when you think about it, the two of them begin to dovetail together, because when you're doing events marketing, when you're doing tourism promotion, you're really talking about what draws people here. And when you work with the young professionals group, you're talking about what's going to keep them here. What got them here is the stuff you do in the front end, and the second part of your job is almost what keeps them here. Let's start with the kind of the marketing, events and tourism piece. The state a couple years ago launched the Stay to Stay program, which was an initiative of the Commissioner of Tourism and Marketing at the time, under the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, to take folks who have a natural affinity for Vermont and try to turn tourists into residents. Can you talk a little bit about that program, how it's worked, what you've seen, and what kind of what the Chamber's experience has been with that program.
Yeah, so the program's been around for about 3 years at this point in time, with the pure incentive of bringing tourists into the region and trying to convert them to be long-term residents. So it's a 3-day weekend. They come on a Friday. We have a welcome reception where we bring in community members, employers currently seeking talent, and they just get a chance to network, get a feel for what the opportunities are in the area. And then Saturday and Sunday, they explore the area on their own tuition. We give them a itinerary so they can kind of get a feel for what attractions they can explore. We give them information on realtors. So if they wanted to go look at open houses, they can do that during the weekend. And then on Monday, we set them up with their employers. So we have a networking event on Monday morning where they're sitting down with employers and getting a feel for, again, what opportunities there are, who's hiring, what industries are really highlighted in our region and desperately seeking talent.
So a couple questions that kind of come up with that. How are folks selected for the program? How do they learn about the program? And what's the criteria that we look for in terms of engaging someone in this program?
Yeah, there is no major criteria. It's anybody that's interested in relocating to the area. I think the big thing that I always want to emphasize is it's different than the remote workers grant. I think a lot of people assume that we're paying people to come here, but they're coming here on their own. They want to come here.
They're paying for themselves.
They're paying for themselves. So we're just helping to give a little bit of structure during their weekend. So I think going forward, we're going to be shifting our stay-to-stay program a little bit and making it a little bit more industry specific, just so we can better match people to prospective employers.
Talk a little bit about that. So where are we going to be focusing?
So this year we're going to be focusing on nurses and tech. So we'll be hosting both a nurses recruiting event and a tech recruiting event this fall.
So when will the nurses be this spring and the tech in the fall? Are they both?
The nurses will actually be this fall.
Okay.
This November. Yep.
And in working with the nurses, who are you partnering with to make that happen?
We're partnering with UVM Med, and with tech, we're going to be partnering with Tech Jam in 7 days to get that up and running. But we really want to focus on the industries that are really desperately seeking talent, with the understanding that, again, there's always going to be talented partners that come to the stay-to-stay weekend as well. And there's going to be people that are still interested, and we will still take their resumes and still help facilitate those connections. But we really want to focus on what's the big gaps that we're missing in our workforce.
And from the work that we've done in talking to employers, it's very difficult to maintain the level of nursing that they have, they require up at the medical center, and we're always looking for tech.
Yep.
Every business you talk to, they're dying for new employees. And what's nice is that both of those industries pay really well, both nursing and technology. You mentioned, though, and I think for anybody who's listening who might know someone who wants to come for this weekend, if you're interested in banking or hospitality or any of those other industries, we will do that work to connect you with those employers. So while there may be a focus, and I think it's always wise to kind of narrow it so you can be a little bit more crisp in what you're offering, we'll take anybody who really wants to move here to Vermont. If someone is interested in the stay-to-stay program, and you said they're in the fall and around Tech Jam, which is usually October, how do they find out more about that? Where can they get information?
Yep. So that information is on the state's website. It's also on our website. And then I always encourage people to email me at erin@vermont.org to learn more.
And the Chamber's website is vermont.org /chamber. And the states would be accd.gov.
That's a good question.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. You can Google it.
Stay to stay.
Google stay to stay.
And it will likely come up. And again, if you are an employer or you are someone that's looking for a job, email me is really the best way to go about that.
It is. You said it's been around for 3 years. Do we have any sense that people have actually taken advantage and moved here because of the program?
Yeah, we've had over 200 families come and visit. I think we're still tracking some of that data, but we would probably say that we had about 10 families that have since relocated to Vermont because of the program.
It's not bad.
It's not, and yeah.
And especially because it costs us nothing to do. They're
Exactly.
here anyway.
And there's still a lot of families that are still looking for housing, or they're just waiting for the right time to make the move, but they still have intentions, and I've been in touch with them.
Good.
Yep.
We talk about, whenever we do either individual recruitment or business recruitment, that there is a sense of place and something special about the Northwest region of Vermont, the Lake Champlain region that we predominantly represent. And what we sell is not just the job, but we sell the sense of place, a lifestyle, a set of values, the social, environmental, cultural values that are important to us. There's a new initiative that began, about a year ago, called Hello Burlington, which is a marketing and promotion exercise, I guess, led by the hospitality industry in town. I know you're not directly working with them, but you touch on them a lot. Can you talk a little bit about what that does and how that meshes with what the Chamber's trying to do?
Yeah, so Hello Burlington is our first ever destination marketing organization for Burlington. It's very important to note, because a lot of cities have had this for years, and we're just getting there.
We have always relied on the good name and brand and reputation, saying, well, of course they'll come to Burlington.
Yep.
And what especially the hospitality industry, has taught us and told us is that there are a lot of other nice areas, and they have these destination marketing areas, and they were eating our lunch.
Yep.
So continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, so we finally have a focus, and we have the revenue to really make something possible. And how that really is helping us at the Chamber is, it's bringing in tourists. That helps our businesses, that helps our members, but it also helps us with relocation services. That's a good touch point for us to kind of bring in those tourists and try to make them residents. So again, we can fill in those gaps in our workforce.
Two things that people tend to forget when they talk about tourism, because and I don't know why it doesn't click, but tourism really is a value-added industry in the sense that when people come here, they're bringing new money into the state. You know, so many times we talk about money just recycling. I give $1 to you, you give it to this person, and it goes around. But like value-added manufacturing and like tech, they're bringing new dollars into the state of Vermont. They're spending it at restaurants, at hotels, at retail establishments, at cultural venues. Those businesses make a profit. They are able to pay their employees, and the state recoups some taxes from that. So I think sometimes tourism gets a bad name, gets a bad rap, but it's really important and critical to our state. And we lose sight of that sometimes, and so it's not hard to understand why Montpelier and the legislature loses sight of that fact and doesn't fund tourism to the level that we would like to see it funded. The other point that to make about that program, and you said that they have a lot of money and they have plenty of money to do it. This money is coming from the hotels and from the members of the Hello Burlington group. They are self-funding a destination marketing organization, so it's not public money, it's not the government or the city, it's really businesses taking money that otherwise could go to them and funding this at the tune of multiples of 6 figures. And so for people who are listening, and I know oftentimes business gets a bad reputation. It's business. All they care about is the bottom line. Well, sure, businesses care about the bottom line, but these businesses are really giving back to make the community better, and that's really important.
Yeah, and it's important to note that these are marketing dollars that, again, could have went to them. They could easily just keep marketing their hotels, but they understand that it's beneficial to them, it's beneficial to our community to really represent our region in a very holistic way, and that's what they're striving to do, which is awesome.
And they're partnering with local groups to kind of do the work, to develop the collateral. So it really is a grassroots effort, and and then the chamber works with them, as you said, because our relocation efforts really dovetail nicely with that. In terms of events, because events create a sense of fun and excitement and ecosystem, if you will, for folks, what events does the chamber have coming up in the next 6 or 9 months that you might want to talk about?
Yeah, so I think our upcoming one that I really want to highlight is our legislative breakfast on March 16th.
Yes.
So that is a really phenomenal opportunity for people to connect with their legislator. It's this thing that's so awesome about Vermont is just how small we are and just how easy and accessible it is to get to people that are making decisions in Montpelier. So that's a really great opportunity to connect with your legislator and over a hot breakfast on a cold morning.
On a cold morning. Hopefully it won't be too cold. And it may sound funny, but we are hosting the breakfast this year at Costco.
Yes.
In the food court at Costco. And I think there are over 70,000 people who have memberships to Costco. I mean, people like to make fun of the big box grocery store, but there are 70,000 Vermonters who have memberships there. So we're hosting it there, and we try to put people from towns, specific towns, at tables with their particular legislators from that district, so that when you're talking to someone, it really is your representative. It is representative democracy, at its finest, over a cup of coffee. And well, I don't know what they're going to serve us for breakfast. Hopefully it won't be hot dogs.
Won't be hot dogs, I promise, or churros.
Or churros,
We will have breakfast food. Yes.
Good. Let's move a little bit now into, before we do, you mentioned the legislative breakfast. Any other events? Because I cut you off with that one. Because Costco excited me so much, I can't wait.
No, we consistently have, especially from Burlington professionals, we have networking events every single month. We have a few coming up in April. We have one coming up at the end of March. And we have our Chamber Challenge coming up at which is our annual golf tournament. That's coming up on June 6th. But I always 8th. Yeah. See, I always encourage people to look on our events calendar because we really do have so much programming, and our networking events expand beyond just your traditional business after hours event. But we have our programming for Leadership Champlain, we have our programming for Launch VT, and all of those are accessible. You can participate in any of their programming and really get a feel for what those programs are about and network, which is awesome.
Right. You mentioned Launch VT. I know next Tuesday night they'll have a continuation of their Speaker series at Generator. So if you're interested in entrepreneurship, if you're interested or have an idea to start a business and you're not sure, how do I do this? How do I commercialize my little product that I have? Who do I talk to? These kind of speaker series bring that group of folks together, and what's so exciting is that even people who are in fields that compete with each other share information just openly. Everybody is there to help everybody else because they want this area to succeed. Speaking of success, now let's talk about young professionals. We hear all the time that it's too expensive, there aren't enough jobs, it's not affordable, yet people want to stay here. They want to make this the place where they live, recreate, have a family, raise a family if that's what they want to do. Talk about Burlington Young Professionals, its history, and then we'll talk about the surveys that you've been doing and what that tells us about what's going on here, and then what we can do about that.
Yeah, so Burlington Professionals has been around for 10 years. It was created because we recognized that there was a gap in our community for a cohesive network for young professionals to engage, professionally develop, and really start to cultivate their careers here. And that's essentially why we started the program, because we really wanted to work hard at the Chamber to keep young talent here, because we were realizing even back then that there was this drive for people to leave the state after a certain point in their life.
And then a lot more people are beginning to look like me, and at some point we have a shelf life.
Yes, yeah.
So there was a survey 2 years ago that the young professionals did, and then you did another one this year, and you've done some smaller surveys.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
what were the key takeaways? Number one, was there consistency from the first survey to the second large survey, and then some of your micro surveying? What's that showed?
Yeah, so the first survey that we did a few years ago was just specifically on housing. And the key takeaway was that housing is too expensive, that people are looking for single, affordable family homes, and those weren't here in access. They felt that there was too many condos and too many rental properties, but there really wasn't that next step in their career that they could make to really settle down and start their family. The latest survey that we did, the one that's a little bit more massive, we really wanted to look at everything. We understood that housing is a problem, but we're starting to feel like they were having issues with their careers. They were having issues with childcare. So we really wanted to get an idea of their professional, personal, and civic lens on the greater Burlington area. And that's what this survey did. It was massive. It was 42 questions, and we had over 500 young professionals still fill it out.
Which is pretty amazing.
Which is
because
awesome.
Usually they tell you if it's more than 10 questions, no one will do
Yeah.
it. And these were not easy questions.
Nope, and they were mostly open-ended responses, and we're having these young professionals sit down, and they were spending a half an hour on this survey and really just opening up about every single issue they're facing here in Burlington, and it gave us incredible data. But
So
the big,
talk about the takeaways.
Yeah.
Because I just want to go back to the first one. One of the things that really struck a lot of folks was that everyone thought they knew that millennials, if you will, wanted to live in apartments in the middle of downtown or in condominiums, and that's where they wanted to spend their lives, as opposed to previous generations, which wanted a nice small house with a small yard and a white picket fence. And that survey you did really reinforced that there comes a point where folks don't want to live like they lived in a college dorm, but they want kind of what previous generations wanted.
yep,
Yeah.
it's the single family homes. Everybody wants them. It doesn't matter what generation it is. When you get to a certain point and you want to raise your family, you want a house. And what they're looking for is a house between $200,000 and $250,000, and they're looking for an area where they still have some accessibility, but also a little bit of privacy. So they're looking at suburbs. They're looking at Colchester, Essex, places where they still have quick access to great downtown areas, but they still have a little bit of privacy and a sense of community.
And we're seeing that in terms of what folks are telling us. They're moving to Milton in Georgia. Some are going as far north as St. Albans because of the pricing here in the immediate Burlington area. You can't find anything in that $250,000 to $300,000 price range.
And I think if they had their realistic approach, they would want to stay in Burlington. I think if people don't want to live out of Burlington, we asked them if they could rank where they wanted to live, and Burlington was always a consistent top choice for them. They don't want to move out of here. They love the city, but they just can't afford the city.
Right. So I kind of took you off tack for a second. So talk about the other elements of that survey. You talked about child care. You talked about access to kind of second and third jobs.
Yep.
What were the consistent themes around childcare and those types of things?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to opportunities. We see it as young professionals are stuck in this opportunity chasm where they feel they don't have an opportunity to get into their first home. They don't have an opportunity to really have affordable, accessible childcare, and they don't have an opportunity to grow their career. A lot of the middle management positions that they're looking for, they don't exist, and they feel that if they lose their career here, or they're looking for their next step here, that they don't have that. So I think there's a lot of fear there that when they're looking to really make that step to grow their career, or if they do, God forbid, lose their job, that they don't really have a backup plan. And that's where we start to see people leave.
And that's particularly true with the kind of the trailing partner issue.
Yep.
That you or I may be able to get the job or maybe the second job in that middle management, but the reality today is that often both partners need to work, and that second job is not there. Often that's a driver
Yep.
that has folks leave. Talk about childcare a little bit, then we'll talk. Hopefully, get to what we can do to make a difference here.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with childcare is that they're operating on a biological clock. I think a lot of people assume that, yes, there's going to be positions opening, that the next generations are going to retire soon, and it'll open up these leadership positions. But when you're in your early 30s, you don't want to wait for something to open up for you. And when you don't have the salary to pay $200+ a week on childcare, it's not going to happen. So that's where we're really seeing that come into effect. And again, accessibility is huge. It's so hard to find childcare in this state. It takes, the process is insanely prolonged. To know it from personal
experience.
I started looking when I was 6 weeks pregnant, and it still took me months to find childcare. And I was proactive. I can't imagine what people are going through when they're not as proactive. It's really hard. You almost have to start planning before you even are pregnant. So.
And what you hear, and I think what came out in the survey, people are paying for a slot even before they have a child in order to ensure that when they have their child and child is ready to go to daycare, childcare, that the slot's available. So it's financially, it's compounded. You're paying even before the child is born. And that gets to, we talk about this a lot. We want quality childcare. The first 5 years, it's incredibly important. So we want quality, but you have to pay for quality. And, we don't pay childcare providers at quality facilities what we're paying teachers to teach kids. And 0 to 5, the brain science, the Let's Grow Kids, they're very articulate about this. It is the most critical time. So we have about 2 minutes left. What can the Chamber do? What is the Chamber doing? What can the community do to begin to help support advances in childcare, that can begin to work on housing affordability, that can begin to work on helping companies grow? Because Vermont likes small, but small only gets you so far when it comes to employment. Do you have any ideas about that?
I think people just shifting your mentality goes a long way. Just really being an advocate, again, being an advocate for businesses, understanding that we need bigger businesses here. We need to scale up smaller businesses so we have those middle management positions. So young professionals are able to grow their career and afford to live here. And a lot of the decisions we need to make, we really just need to have a coherent voice to push up stuff at the State House. And that's where we always come in. Where the Chamber is a great asset, where we can really help advocate for people. So I always suggest that, again, contact your legislator, but also contact your local chamber.
Right. The Chamber has a great advocacy team, and we work on issues that really are there to help promote community and help small businesses grow and thrive. We are just about out of time. If you want any more information, you can contact either myself, Tom at Vermont.org, Erin at Vermont.org, or go to the website and look at the number of programs and see how you might engage. Or if you have a different opinion, we firmly believe we're not 100% right 100% of the time, and the only way we get better at representing people, at representing businesses, at representing community is by hearing all sides and hearing and be willing to hear when we're wrong, admit it and change. We've taken policy positions that from time to time that probably were not the best, and we've acknowledged that and gone back and changed it. So we want to be the voice of small business and community and employees before the legislature. We think we do that well. Well, thank you for watching this show. We hope it's been informative. We hope you've learned something. Again, if you have any comments or opinions, get in touch with us. It doesn't matter if you like us or don't like us. We will get back to you, and we'll engage in a very civil dialogue. So thank you, and good evening.